the Fed has to be willing to start to print again, which eventually I think they will. But I think it does get pushed off a little bit. The halving will help in 2024. And that will be part of the catalyst for the next big move. But the next big move, I think, is going to come from institutional buyers, right? So if you look at the buyers right now in crypto, it's mainly small investors. You do have some institutions, but comparatively to the stock market, it's way more small investors in retail versus institutions. Once we get some sort of clarity on regulation, where they say, okay, altcoins are a security and these are the rules that they have to abide by, that's going to be huge, because institutions are wanting to invest in this space. Even after FTX, there's still this underlying want to invest in crypto. And so once the clarity is there, once the regulation is there, once people know that their money is safe when they invest in these things, that's going to be a huge catalyst for the next bull market. And I think the next bull market takes us well north of
When will the next big move happen in Bitcoin? When can I finally profit from these crazy markets and get my share of the promise everyone is making about crypto? So many new investors didn't get the chance to benefit from a big move in Bitcoin and are wondering when that will finally happen. If you're one of them, in this video, Gareth Soloway, a master trader with 20+ years of experience and founder of VerifiedInvestingCrypto.com, will tell you by what date you can expect that big move and what price Bitcoin will reach. This is a shocking prediction to many people, so pay close attention until the end. But first, why is Bitcoin pumping if fundamentals didn't change?
I think we all have to know that going into a January, there's something called the January effect. And essentially what happens is that people have losses in 2022 and they want to offset gains, so that you end up selling your losers for tax purposes in 2022 in December, which depresses a lot of stocks. What then happens in January is that those sellers are now done. So there's this inevitable kind of rally that takes place. Now, I think the rally caught a lot of people off guard and a lot of shorts off guard, and you started to see a short squeeze to the upside. And that kind of built on itself. And we've seen stocks like Coinbase going up well over 100% in January, short squeezes and just this meteoric kind of revisiting of 2021 euphoria. My fear is that people are kind of believing it's 2021 again, when printing money was constant, interest rates were near zero, and they're not taking into account that times are different now. And so I think that for me, I look at this and I do think that we will hit a recession, but probably in the late second half of 2023. Part of the reasoning for not hitting it so fast is that you have this kind of mental ability from investors, retail, that COVID's over, they're spending money, they spent down all the money they saved, but now they're going back into credit card debt. And I think that's going to take a little while before they have to put on the stops, right? And you're right, you mentioned Amazon's laying off people, Google, Facebook, or Meta. They're all the bigger companies are starting to lay off people, which is the kind of the shot across the bow, in my opinion, where you will eventually see this trickle all the way down through Main Street and start to affect the economy in a negative way. So one of the things that I just noticed on Bitcoin a couple of days ago that has me slightly concerned with the upward momentum is this, right? So you have this bullish consolidation, and what we saw was a move up where it tried to break out, and then you actually pulled back. And this is what's known as a topping tail, this candle right here. All right, topping tails are bearish signals. Basically, the thought process behind a topping tail is that bulls or buyers pushed it up, but then bigger money came from the top and pushed it back down, closing it in the lower levels here with a long tail on top. And that generally, if you look historically, topping tails signal the potential for downside momentum to start kicking in again. So again, it's not, I'm not saying it's a definitive negative, meaning that we're definitely going down. There's still a chance that we could negate it and go to 25,000. But I would say the probabilities at this point have flipped towards the slight negative on Bitcoin here with that topping tail formation. So if we do sell off, you're going to have support at 22,300 right here, which is the low of the consolidation. Then if you break that, you have 21,300, which is the FTX high before the collapse. And you could see right here, that was resistance until we broke it. If we get through that, then you come down towards this middle point right here, and eventually your double bottom. I still have it penciled in. I don't believe we have seen the lows yet on crypto. To me, this is a bear market rally. This is kind of a 2021 rejuvenation, but I don't believe that it's the low on the crypto markets yet.
People are claiming the bear markets have ended. Twitter is going crazy, and people are as excited as they were when Bitcoin went to 60,000. But according to Gareth, this is just false hope.
If you look at past bear markets where they ended, right? So think about in 2009 after the financial crisis, or in 2001 and 2, the initial move up in the markets, retail investors are always too scared to get in the market. So it's a very concerning signal when you have this move up in crypto, I think about 35%. But if we zoom out on the chart, like look at the bigger picture, right? Yeah, I mean, it's a great bounce, but it's kind of the equivalent of from here to here, right? I mean, that's essentially the same distance, but here you have bullishness really kind of reminiscent of when crypto was all the way up here. And again, for the retail crowd to be that bullish this quickly tells me it's probably not the end, because even in 2018, when we bottomed out in Bitcoin, the initial up move of 30, 35, 40% off of the lows, people were still telling me, oh, crypto's dead, it's not coming back. I mean, that was the majority. You didn't see people rejoicing yet. It wasn't until we got over 10,000 that believers came back in. And that was actually a triple off the lows. That was a 3x pretty much off the lows. I do still think that the lows will be put in this year. It just may be later in the year. Originally, I was thinking May to June, based on a comparison to the Lehman Brothers collapse back in 08 into 09. But needless to say, this rally, it's just a matter of how fast it unwinds. And I think that's going to be something we all have to watch, is that this rally is coinciding with a stock market rally. If the stock market starts to roll over heavily, does that bring crypto in very, very quickly? And then we also have the wild card with crypto, which is the regulation here in the United States. What kind of regulation is it going to be? Ultimately, I think regulation is a positive, but initially it may shock the markets. It might scare the markets. It may scare investors into dumping out first.
And by talking about regulation,
but I really do think that once we get regulation in the crypto markets in the US, I think you're going to see this kind of flipping of being a risk asset at least in Bitcoin. And listen, that's true, because I should really differentiate where you have Bitcoin, which is like a digital gold, versus some of the altcoins, which are much more like stocks. So I think for Bitcoin, at least, it flips into a digital gold where even during a bad recession, price will start to actually go up. So I think the stock market, again, maybe even 10 years before we make a new all-time high, but I think crypto within 3 or 4 years is easily breaking through 69,000 and maybe even higher. Imagine if the US goes into this recession, and a lot of people are saying, oh, it's going to be a really bad recession. I think it could just be one of these like long, drawn out, smaller recessions where really investors are just like, oh, this, how long is this going to go on? And the Fed's not willing to print money to bail us out early on, because the Fed will bail us out if inflation gets below 2% or if it becomes too like a depression, right? If it's a really, really bad recession. But if we're just in this kind of like lukewarm market where, companies are making flat or slightly lower earnings, investors that are putting billions and trillions of dollars to work, they're going to say, well, why am I going to do that in stocks? Where do I go? Well, gold, silver, maybe uranium, but also Bitcoin will be a beneficiary of that. So I do think that it will diverge from stocks.
Knowing this, what are Gareth's recommendations for long-term investors, knowing that we may still be in the bear market for a while?
So for long-term investors, right, and I'm hugely bullish on Bitcoin long-term, right? It's just this period where we're in right now where it's a bear market, where it kind of is scary. Do we go lower? Do we not go lower? So if you're a long-term investor, there's nothing wrong with kind of legging into Bitcoin or Ethereum, even at these levels. But again, the term legging means you're not putting your whole bag in Bitcoin right here. You're basically saying, okay, if I want to invest $10,000 in Bitcoin, I'm going to put $1,000 in here, and then maybe every 1,000 down, I'll add another 1,000. And what that does is it gives you the ability to participate on the upside if it goes up. Like if it goes to $1 million, even if you have $1,000 in there, you're still making great money. If it goes down, you're dollar cost averaging and bringing your overall average down so that when it does go to 1 million, you make even more money. And so this way, it's all about managing risk. I mean, really, as a trader, you're always analyzing your risk. And by legging in, you're really being very careful about your risk. You're getting exposure, but you're not overexposing.
And pay close attention now. Gareth will explain when Bitcoin will make a more significant move that will change many people's lives.
So my guess is that the next big bull market in Bitcoin probably coincides with 2025-ish to 2026. So it's going to take a little while. We have to work through these issues within the global and domestic economy. The inflation has to get under control. The Fed has to be willing to start to print again, which eventually I think they will. But I think it does get pushed off a little bit. The halving will help in 2024. And that will be part of the catalyst for the next big move. But the next big move, I think, is going to come from institutional buyers, right? So if you look at the buyers right now in crypto, it's mainly small investors. You do have some institutions, but comparatively to the stock market, it's way more small investors in retail versus institutions. Once we get some sort of clarity on regulation, where they say, okay, altcoins are a security and these are the rules that they have to abide by, that's going to be huge because institutions are wanting to invest in this space. Even after FTX, there's still this underlying want to invest in crypto. And so once the clarity is there, once the regulation is there, once people know that their money is safe when they invest in these things, that's going to be a huge catalyst for the next bull market. And I think the next bull market takes us well north of 100,000, maybe even to 250,000 based on the institutional money involvement. So I think for me, I would still be very cautious this year. I would not be shocked to see us break through the 16,000-ish area and maybe trek down to 12 to 13. Worst case would be like 9. I don't know if that'll happen this year, maybe early 2024. It's tough to know exactly on the timing, but ultimately, I think that there's a chance that whenever we do bottom, it'll be a coexistence bottom of the regulation occurring, which then starts to bring price up very quickly. I do think that price could bounce back to 20 to 25 again, maybe even 30, but it then may consolidate for a while. So again, generally downside, I would say here, maybe a move up to 25,000, but that topping tail is concerning to me. And then ultimately after that, I do think that wave down comes back in. I think it's going to shock a lot of people. And a lot of people have gone very, very bullish in the stocks and in crypto. But eventually we bottom out this year and hopefully, and we'll start to move up pretty quickly. And by 2028, I don't know. I mean, I would say 150,000.
To close in this fantastic interview, what levels are Gareth looking at now?
The bigger question is number one is, can we negate that topping tail? If we negate that topping tail, then 25,000 is your next stop. After 25, if we break through 25, then you have 30,000, and then actually you have a move up to about 40,000. So there's always those possibilities. I just think probability-wise, right? So everything we look at is probability-wise. Right now, the probabilities are slightly shaving to the downside. If we get through the topping tail high, then all of a sudden probabilities jump significantly to the 25,000 level, but then we have to break that. So for me as a trader, right, it's all about levels that are broken. You have to respect a resistance line until price gets over it. Once price gets over it, then the kind of the emotion kicks in again for investors, and you'll see that pop even higher. So again, it's just so hard to figure out. So right now, the first level that every investor needs to be watching is this high of this tail right here, right? So that point, 24,240. So if we can have a daily close above that, that cancels out the topping tail. So that's your first spot. Next, notice this level right here, right? So if we go to, bear with me here, rectangle. So notice you have this low here and then this high here. So that's telling you there's resistance in that range, so that the next level is going to be 25,300. That's resistance. And then following that, you have this huge level here from the lows of 2021 through this consolidation right here. And that's right around 30,000. So those are your next stopping points on the bull side. On the downside, again, the big levels, we'd have to see if we break this little low here at 22,300. Then you have this level at 21,400. followed by 18.3, and then eventually double bottom at 15.6 or so.
If you want to see more daily crypto content just like this, please leave a like and subscribe. We bring curated content daily to help protect your money while you profit from these wild markets. Thank you so much for watching. See you again tomorrow.